Are you experiencing back pain that you can't get rid of? Getting migraines, vertigo, having trouble sleeping, and/or brain fog? Do you feel like your medical doctor doesn't understand your condition? Blair Chiropractic might be the solution you've been looking for. If you've ever been skeptical about this, the two doctors you're about to listen to were even more skeptical than you were when they looked into chiropractic work. But fear not. Get expert guidance from the blonde and the bald, Doctors Beth Bagley and Frederick Schurger. These two doctors have extensive experience beyond the healthcare realm and bringing unique vision and healing to their patients. What do you have when you get a biological analyst and an engineer together? Find out right here on another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Welcome your hosts, Doctors Bagley and Schurger.
Good evening, Dr. Bagley.
Good evening, Dr. Schurger.
Welcome to The Blonde and the Bald, folks.
I'm Dr. Beth Bagley, and I was blonde, but
You're
less
still
blonde
mostly
today.
Blonde. You're mostly blonde. I'm having a bad hair day.
It is, unfortunately.
Every day.
Or good, if you like it.
Anyways,
Yes. How was your week?
It was great. It was great. We just, folks, when you're listening to this, I know we are like weeks behind on getting these things published. It's just the way that our publishing schedule works. But we just finished up Labor Day weekend, rather. My wife and I ran down to see Dr. Harshfield in Little Rock, and we even stopped to get an upright MRI for her. I have an upright MRI thing for people who are interested in asking questions, and they say, hey, I want to go get an upright MRI.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, have you had any patients that said, hey, doc, I'm going to go get this upright MRI, and then they come back, they don't order it through you, or they don't ask, how to do it right, and they come back with an upright MRI into your office yet?
Yes.
Okay. And the results didn't look as good, right?
Well, it was weird because they cut it into, they did two different MRIs on a section that I just needed one.
Right.
So that was not what I wanted.
Here's the other thing that's not what you wanted. And when I told this to the radiologist who taught me a lot about upright MRIs, he was like, what do you mean they did it that way? So when you take a regular MRI, you're laying on your back.
Yes.
And that is, that's just how that ends up working. That changes your structures within your body. And if you're walking around in gravity like most of us are, you have a different presentation of the stuff inside as well. Everything is not suspended as cleanly as we would like, especially after a trauma. What they're supposed to do with an upright MRI is have you at 90 degrees so that you are upright in gravity like you are walking around everywhere else. But what they have been doing because of motion issues is they have been taking the MRIs at 45 degrees.
What?
Yes, exactly. And you are just as upset about this and like dumbfounded is like, why do you even bother with the upright machine?
Yeah, well, you might as well just take it laying down.
Yeah, because you are not getting enough of gravity impacting on the patient the way that it is impacting on their day-to-day life.
I have a question for one of my patients, and I will ask her that next time I see her because
I had a patient who went down there probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
And this is the one in St. Louis?
This is the one in St. Louis,
okay.
Although I wouldn't be surprised that we have the same issues at other locations in, certainly Chicago is the other one that I see a lot of people go to. But he went down there and he's like, yeah, this is how they always take them, at a 45-degree angle. And I'm like, that's odd. So we go in for my wife's and we're setting her up, and she said, well, we're going to tip you back to 45 degrees. And I'm like, no.
Oh.
And I glad I was there, and I wouldn't have not been there for hers. But she even realized, no, that's not what we need, because that we need to see it clinically.
We need to see what it's like when I'm up. Yes.
Exactly. So we have that kind of situation, and people, if you're getting it and they say, no, we're going to take you at 45. No, they have other ways to immobilize you, because what ends up happening is you end up having some motion as you're in this upright MRI, because they really don't have the materials to sort of strap you in properly. They've got you strapped in to a degree, but they do have a bar that they can put across your forehead to help you, something that you can lean against. I would rather, and I'm going to turn I would
Mhm.
rather a patient have something to lean their head up against and have a non-perfect posture than I
Yeah.
would have them like have that
Baffled.
bar in their lap. That bar in their lap does them no good. The bar here that allows them just to lean and a hold is going to do far more good for them when they're getting these pictures taken.
Okay.
In fact, and we did this not only for the regular series, but also for the CCJ series, the cranial cervical junction series. We can make that a drinking game. Every time I say an acronym, no, don't do that. You don't do that. Just don't drink. Alcohol is poison. But in any case,
We could drink water.
we could drink water. We should drink water. If you're going to do the flexion extension ones, also have that bar be the thing you're going to lean into.
Okay.
So that is, and I need to rewrite the entire protocol.
I would love that
And-
protocol, and I bet
well-
people listening, some of the doctors listening might want it too.
And it's a double part to it. It's not just a protocol of how the scans are taken, but how the patient needs to be positioned. And these are just little things, because the young lady that was taking who was running that machine, fantastic, and she was very helpful. But she's part-time there, so she's not always the one working that machine.
Mhm.
And they're open. A lot of these places are open long hours.
Yeah,
so
so
I
it's going to be
can't-
multiple people working.
Right. And if they don't understand the protocols that we're doing, we're not going to get good pictures. We got great pictures, and my wife's a mess. But yeah, it is. Yeah. But hopefully there's some things we can do and improve. I'm going to have to write up a report for her, but that's just something
So-
interesting.
Quickly, I will just remark on why we as upper cervical practitioners want an upright MRI versus I know we've talked about this on another podcast, but just in case you haven't picked those up.
Yep.
Is if a patient is laying down in an MRI, especially the cerebellar tonsils and the head and the brain actually like falls into the cradle of the skull.
Absolutely.
So it kind of comes clunking down there. And what it will do is, if there is some sort of like prolapse of the brain tissue that's going into where it's not supposed to be going into in the neck, that might go away. It might not, but it might go away. So then you won't see it. And in an upright MRI, if you're at 90 degrees, thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
We should see on a person who has something like a Chiari or low-lying tonsils, some protrusion of part of the brain tissue into that atlas, base of the skull, foramen magnum, the hole at the bottom of your skull. It should, it will be coming through, which we don't want that to be, but
Right.
if it is, we want to be able to see it.
Right.
That leads me to a win that we had in the office this last couple weeks. We had
Wonderful.
a patient coming in. She comes in in a wheelchair, and not because she can't walk, but because she has this disease, I'll call it, or a syndrome called POTS. And POTS is Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia syndrome. So this young lady, when she moves in certain directions, sits up from laying down or stands up, immediately passes out and will faint. And it was happening for her multiple times a day. And it's just terribly affected her life. And honestly, she came into the office for something else. And we didn't want to promise her that this was going to get better. We don't fix POTS. We don't fix
Right.
anything. We fix subluxation of the spine. So when she started coming in, we were excited, and Dr. Ladd actually took future Dr. Ladd took her initial intake and everything. I did the initial few adjustments. Dr. Ladd's have done a few adjustments, and this young lady was at the park and was able to take 10 steps before she had to sit back down in her wheelchair, still didn't pass out. And that was a really big win. She was so excited to tell us that she was actually walking on a beautiful day and was able to get up and move. And she's also been getting out of the house more because she feels comfortable to do it.
Mhm.
And that is just so amazing. But POTS is really that's one of the people that I'd want to see, an upright MRI on, because there
absolutely.
can be a relationship between what's happening in there. But have you had any patients with POTS in the past?
I was just telling you about one, because
Yeah,
my wife
Jean.
Jean has POTS.
Yeah.
I've had a couple, and it's really curious how much, in fact, we were talking about it with Dr. Harshfield when I was down there visiting with him. He was saying that it's pretty common, anytime you start having the pressure and the way that things are moved, that you have pressure on the vagus nerve that prevents normal hypertension not normal hypertension style changes. So we're not actually talking hypertension, but we're talking about the body's normal ability to raise and lower the blood pressure as you change positions. And I'm looking over some stuff here on POTS. They're basically saying that it's a increase of heart rate, above 120 beats a minute in like the first minutes of standing, in the absence of any other hypotension or orthostatic intolerance, which is just basically fancy words for there's nothing else happening. And you've got, basically this vagal tone, problem with the vagus nerve not working the way it's supposed to. And that can lead to a bunch of different problems. So yeah, it is, if we get Jean clear, she's got great days. In fact, I've seen days when, if we get her clear enough, it's like she's a new woman, as long as I don't say something stupid.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, right. That's like, I find stupid things to say all the time.
I know.
But to the point, no, I've had several that, they do better. The question becomes, again, how much can you promise, and how much better will they be, consistently?
Yeah, and that's why we don't promise anything. Like
Right.
This is not a cure for POTS, but it's very awesome. And she was so excited that she saw any change,
Right.
because she hasn't for years. She's on disability. She's a young person who can't have a job, and she can't, all of these things. And, she was able to go to the Barbie movie, and she was
Nice.
so excited to say that she was able to get out and go to a movie, and
Well,
she hasn't
that's
done that. And
fantastic.
and it's incredible.
Yeah. And it is amazing what the body can do. And to varying degrees as far as how people can heal and how fast they can heal. It's funny. I had a patient come in this morning who, she missed her appointment last week. First off, it's her husband's fault. It's not. First, it's her husband's fault because somehow she didn't get the phone, the message on her phone that he was supposed to bring her in. But I don't know what happened there for, and so it's like, no, she was supposed to come in. It's like, well, I can't get her in, and she didn't want to come in this morning. I'm like, great, fine. She needs to come in Thursday, because I just know, because she's, this is the one, I don't know if I've mentioned her in the past, but she decided, she didn't decide, the ex-husband that was drinking too much that night decided to go into a embankment under a bridge, and she went through the windshield and hit her head 50 years ago. Yeah, awful. And she's doing so much better. She can actually get around, and she's like, I don't feel so bad when she's in alignment. Well, she didn't come in last week because like Thursdays are bad for her, but this week I'm not in on Monday for the holiday. She comes in today and she's like, Doc, so Thursdays are so bad. This is miserable. I don't want to rest too long. She just her getting on the table hurt her just to lay down. I get her adjusted, and I have her go right to the resting room because I'm confident that she just needs some time to rest after her head's back on straight. I could see it in the graph. It was one of those things. And as she's walking, Doc, I think I'm walking better. I think I'm feeling better. Can it happen that fast? And yes, it can.
Absolutely.
So, and the funny thing is I had another young lady who's 20 years younger than her come in at, an hour or two later and said the exact same thing. I should have been in last week. And it's like, Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you should have been. And this is the amazing thing about how we can address people's such a simple little thing, like moving a 2-ounce bone underneath your skull
Yeah.
can have profound effects on your overall health and well-being in ways that we just don't even understand.
From your head to your toes, everything. Everything's
Head to your
connected.
toes. Yep. Oh, I'm gonna bring up. No, I'm gonna save that. They might listen. They might become patients later. Any case,
Did you have a article on POTS that you wanted to bring up?
I was looking over it, and there was a couple things. This one here, I'll pull it up, and
So if you're on YouTube, he's going to pull it up so you can see it, but I'll read the title of it too, just so you can look it up if you want to.
Of course, I moved everything out of the way so I could look at the article a little bit closer as we were talking about stuff. So this was a chiropractic case, relief of orthostatic hypertension and tachycardia with chiropractic rehab. So basically, as we were discussing your POTS case, we were going over some bits and pieces. This was a 50-year-old female. I don't know. I can't think of a whole lot of POTS cases I've seen in men. I'm certain they exist to varying degrees.
I'm sure they exist, but
but I don't think I've seen less of them. And she had all the all the signs of having problems. She had 46 out of 100 was her dizziness score.
And this was general chiropractic. This was not upper cervical.
This is not upper cervical. This is a general chiropractic, from what I can tell. And she was being seen 3 times a week for 3 months. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm going to see the chiropractor for the rest of my life." If you've got POTS, you might have to. And these are cases that need more things. So they were doing a lot of spinal manipulation of the neck here. They did some thermal ultrasound therapy to relieve the stiffness and restore mobility. And sometimes I think that, sometimes those therapies are necessary to break down some of the scar tissue that is present there. But she was, doing great. And from the second week on, the patient reported that her pain and dizziness gradually improved and resolved completely within 4 weeks.
That's pretty incredible.
I'd
really write that one up too. That's a great case study.
And this DHI score was at 46 and reduced to 0. And for people who are looking at any of these index scores, something like a dizziness handicap inventory, I like using something like the functional rating index. There's a neck disability index. Clinically significant change is only 10 points.
Wow.
So we're talking about a really big change overall for this case. So 10% 10 points out of 100, 10% is clinically significant, and this is a huge change. She even had a scoliosis that reduced. That's
wow.
That's fantastic. So 24 months, the patient was symptom free and no adverse events associated with the treatment. How can a lot of people say, "Oh, you're going to have problems with chiropractic," and generally the adverse events are much lower than they are with a lot of traditional therapies in medicine. So,
oh, absolutely. I think the worst thing that usually happens with people is maybe 10% of patients is they get sore after a first adjustment. And I warn them that can happen. And honestly, it doesn't scare me at all. It makes me excited when they get sore because I know things are changing.
Exactly. So, but yeah, that is a fantastic situation. And I think, this is interesting. I didn't see this part of it, but she was treated with psychiatric medications, rehabilitation, exercise, and acupuncture back when this started for her in 2016. That means she had 3 years, almost 4 years of dealing with this really debilitating condition gets under chiropractic care, and within 4 weeks, she was back to functional. So
Wow.
that's pretty, that in and of itself is pretty profound.
That's
when you get right
amazing.
down to it. So
Chiropractic is amazing. It's
it
like the
really is.
best job ever.
really
I've
is.
said it so many times, but man, is it exhausting? Yes. But is it worth it every
Absolutely.
day? Every day.
Do you miss working for a chemical conglomerate?
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, definitely not.
I was talking about that today with somebody because he's a molecular biologist, and I was like, oh, he works with human stuff, so
Right.
for WashU, but I was like, wow, okay. I sort of remembered some of the stuff we were talking about. It's been almost 20 years.
But it's funny because I was joking about somebody was making a comment about my outfit and how I don't need to go to a fashion show because of the way that I like, that I dress. And I'm like, oh, thank you. As an aside, my off days are cargo pants and a t-shirt so I can go get dirty.
They really are cargo pants, y'all. I've seen them.
Yes, I have several pairs. But that's the engineer in me. That's what I want to do.
I get it.
When I'm not worried about all of that stuff. And when I'm not taking care of patients. So some days you can climb out of the rat race as I did. And some days you're just like, no, I'm going to go hide in there, but I'm not going to go back into the engineering world directly, but we're going to apply some of my electrical engineering knowledge to this really interesting subject of electromagnetic fields.
Also called EMFs.
Yes, EMF and all of the other stuff. Another great article that I came across as I was doing some review of from Dr. Dan Murphy's site, who we get to see here in Vegas here in a couple of weeks. That's going to be fantastic.
I'm excited to see him again.
I am too. Well, I'm wondering if my brain has gotten big enough to be able to not explode.
No, mine will explode. Mine will explode.
Well, we'll see we'll see about mine.
Yours will not, probably. Mine will explode.
I'm who knows? I mean, he's always on the cutting edge of science and asking the questions, hey, is this real? Is this not? As he digs through all the literature and sort of
How many hours is he going to speak?
I think we've got the better part of Friday.
I think so too. It's going to be epic.
I'm going to be like pages and pages and pages of notes, and it's going to be awesome.
So EMFs, we're told that there's no problem with them.
Right.
We're told that there's no relationship between any issues that people have, and that it's safe.
Sure.
It's safe for the general public to be around massive amounts of EMFs all the time.
And I would think a generally healthy person will have no problems with EMF. I'll be the first one to say, if you are in generally good health, you're not going to have a problem.
Just like if you're in generally good health and you get COVID, you're not going to die.
Yeah. It's, only 99% of people survived when they contracted COVID.
Or way more than 99.7, I think.
It's a really high number, but I didn't specify as an age group, because as you got higher into the male group,
if you're 90 years old
and a man, your outcomes were poorer.
But so let's say there's an individual who is suffering with like a chronic disease or chronic fatigue or something.
Yes.
And they're in EMFs.
And there's all sorts of weird stuff that can go on. And I'm going to use, in fact, she texted me earlier today saying that she wants to get in tomorrow at 4:30. Friday's my day off. And, but she has been through so much that I'm just like, yeah, all right. She says, can we do Friday at 4:30 or Saturday late lunch? And I'm like, we'll do Friday. Because all this weather, I don't know how it is down your way, but we've been overcast for like the past couple of days. And the question in my mind is, all right, what else is going on barometrically Because that was another interesting article that I came across recently that I want to dive into a little bit deeper off in the future, about barometric pressures. And I think we joked about that, and people with arthritis being able to tell barometric pressures. Well, this young lady, she gets what almost looks like a storm front come through, and she's out of commission.
Oh.
But what was really curious, we got her, when did we started seeing her? Probably 17, late 17. By 18, no, it was 18 that we started seeing her. By 19, she was coming out of it. They went down to Disney World, had a great time. Coming into COVID, she was more comfortable and more functional. And then during COVID, they planted a garden. They also got kayaks, and they went kayaking on the lake down by them. There are power lines over the lake. She got under the power lines and froze up. She has all these weird jerking motions that she does while they're watching TV. So there's a lot of questions as to what is going on, and what has changed in the past, certainly 10 years, if not 20 years, is we've introduced all of these other things that are transmitting electromagnetic frequencies. When you and I were growing up, all we had radio waves, and we had TV waves, just slightly different frequencies. And that was really it. Microwaves were starting to become a thing in the home, but those were only really emitting when they were running. I still remember the Malcolm in the Middle episode where she's pregnant with the youngest son, and she's got her belly right up against the microwave.
That show's awesome.
And we wonder why he was a little bit odd. But any case, that's one of those shows that I need to go back and just rewatch.
It's so funny. It's the best.
But any case, and then we started having cell phones. I mean, there were bag phones, but in order to have a bag phone, you had to, it was
plugged into your car.
It was plugged into your car, and it took a lot of power. And any battery life was very short-lived.
So you didn't have it in your pocket. It wasn't all over the place.
Exactly.
But there were fields then being the cellular towers were putting out there.
Yes. And it's interesting because, and I've had some conversations with some colleagues, because when I was in engineering school, I was looking down that digital, there was a lot of back and forth between analog and digital technologies going on, and the digital stuff won because you needed less power in your pocket. The analog stuff, the bag phones as it were, you needed more power, but the wavelength was a little bit more friendly. Now that we've gone more digital, they flipped it so they can have more towers. You don't need nearly as much power, but now you have all these really, really high frequencies that are just bathing everything. And that's not even including your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth that is everywhere as well. So I know you're the same way as I am. I've got Wi-Fi in my office.
I do.
But I've since, and that's just, for convenience. So we didn't have to dump a bunch of money into hardwiring the office. And, that takes time, and, there's an expense there. However, I have gotten to the point where I'm doing more hardwiring of everything and trying to move away from Wi-Fi. The only downside is I've got 3 other offices that are in this building that have Wi-Fi.
You can't get away from it.
You can't get away from it.
Yeah, in my house, I can get 5 different Wi-Fi signals from my neighbors. With it, and actually really good. I mean, they're locked, but I can see them when I open up my, so you just can't get away from it. There is a place you can't get away from it. Do you know about it?
You just go out into the woods far enough away that,
maybe you could probably still get a cell phone. There's a place called Green Bank, West Virginia. Have you heard of this place?
No.
So look it up. Everybody look it up. So there's videos on it. So this is a place where electrosensitive people can go to live. And they, it's a national radio quiet zone. They have pretty much no Wi-Fi. There's even like police that go around looking for Wi-Fi signals. And if you get caught with it, you get taken away. And it's the reason is not for electrosensitive people, but they have radio. They're trying to find radio waves from space or something. I think it is.
Yeah.
So this quiet zone is around that so that they can pick up space stuff, and which is really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what they find. That scares me because the aliens scare me. That's a whole nother subject.
They're talking about this disclosure and they're apparently around.
I don't want to hear it.
Anyways.
They're scary, and
It's
I watch too many movies.
Can you trust the government?
I don't trust anyone, and I don't trust aliens.
Yes.
But this place is really kind of cool. And for somebody who like that, your patient, that if it got to the point where she couldn't live,
right,
you know, like this was affecting every aspect of her life, these people will actually move there.
Interesting.
So that they can live without frequencies, without EMFs in their life.
Well, and this begs a question: how many people don't even realize that they're sensitive to this? I mean, we just figured this out along the way with this patient, because as you know, she was having all these spasmodic episodes. What was the thing that I was thinking she had? She had a little bit of POTS.
Yeah.
But she also had, it's not coming to my brain anymore. But basically where everything is in spasm and she can't move. It becomes very tonic.
Dystonia?
That's it. Thank you. And she looked like she had some dystonia going on to varying degrees. But how much of it was all the EMFs that keep on getting layered upon layered upon layered? And then on top of that, the other thing that most people don't realize is the smart meters that you now have on your house measuring your electricity is also got a big field that it produces.
You know what? We put a Faraday cage around ours and it got taken off. I don't know if a storm took it off.
Really?
Or the electric company took it off, but we need to buy another one. Jason said he put it on there really well and it was gone. And we couldn't find it around it. So they're not that expensive. You can find them on Amazon.
Interesting. But it's a thought that I've had in my mind, especially with some of the problems my wife has. How much of it is there's just so much EMF fog that's giving her a bunch of trouble and she's not able to function. Now, we run over to my folks' place and we don't have, we're out in the woods enough that it's low Wi-Fi. There's a little bit of Wi-Fi. Heck, my dad's Wi-Fi barely works anyways. It's almost as good as dial-up modems, a little bit better. But it's curious how much of this, the thought in my mind is how long does she need to be in that environment away from all the stuff? But we still have cell towers and everything else. So the question is how much is blanketed on top, one on top
we
of the
need
other.
to take a vacation to West Virginia. It's beautiful.
We may need to do that. We may very well need to do that. Let me pull up this electrosmog study here because it's really fascinating.
It's pollution. It's a type of pollution that you can't see. It's invisible.
And we don't know who's sensitive to what. And that is the harder problem.
I mean, that's the same thing you think about. Well, that's impossible. I was like, well, this person can be allergic to peanuts and this person could be allergic to nothing. And like, what's the difference? They're just different people.
Who was it? There was a comedian that was talking about taking Reese's peanut butter cups to school and all the kids freaking out because exactly. How sad is that?
I mean, like, I get it though. If your kid's gonna die,
I get it too.
Like, that's scary as hell. I like.
How do you develop a peanut allergy?
Yeah, we have a whole. We could talk about that for
We could talk about that for a while.
We'll get kicked off of at least YouTube for that.
At least YouTube. We'll definitely. I've got to get a bunch all this stuff.
We should start uploading these to Rumble.
Yes, we're going to. That is on my agenda. Hopefully soon. But this is actually out of immunology research in the EMF spectrum. As far as how big are these, what are the different frequencies of these waves that are coming through? There's ionizing radiation, right? So that's X-rays, that's CTs. That has, a number of different uses. we're not talking about ionizing radiation. We're talking about general frequencies and what are they doing to the body, and how is the body reacting to various things in their environment. Did I talk about the low level frequencies last time? Have we talked about them?
I don't remember.
All right. So there is a low level frequency, not ultrasonic, ultrasound is what they call it. So this is getting below 20 hertz, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there weird things happen to human beings when these ultrasounds come across. And what's curious is they figured out what may be perceived. So you start getting a frequency under 20 hertz, your eyeball actually has a resonant frequency in those low frequencies. I want to say somewhere between 15 to 18 hertz. When it happens, your eyeball starts shaking. You won't hear it, you might not feel it, but your eye will perceive it as a shadow in the corner.
Oh my gosh. That's like that's like the devil.
Or a ghost or something else. And it's funny. The scientists figured this out. They installed a new piece of equipment or an air conditioner or something, and it was producing a low level frequency in his lab. And he's looking around and he's like,
"They're shadow people."
He thinks they're shadow people. Because he's perceiving this, and he's like, he's a scientist. He's trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, he's like, this isn't actually shadow people. What is it? Yeah.
And he was able to measure that. And don't ask who's figured out the resonant frequencies of the heart, the eyeballs, and your ears, and some parts of your brain. It was probably either the Nazis or the Russians. In either case, or
the CIA.
Well, we could go down DARPA rabbit holes all day long, because there is stuff going on there. Whether or not they're going to tell us anything about it,
just people just randomly drop dead that they were in. Yeah, and
that's another story.
There's weapons, all sorts of things.
But again, what is visible? The visible range, between 400 and 700 nanometers is visible. Is our visible light.
Yeah,
there's stuff way outside this. And then as we start getting into higher and higher frequencies, we start seeing other things. So there is so much. We've got, FM radio stations are in megahertz. Wi-Fi, radar detectors, cell phones, direct TV, that's all megahertz. AM radio stations were in kilohertz that we kept around for a while. The megahertz were generally too bad. And then we start getting into gigahertz, which is some of what the anti-collision vehicle radars are doing.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a whole nother technology now. They're just shooting out. They're shooting out radar in the front of all of the cars. Well, not all of them. Mine doesn't have it, but
and here's something that's really crazy. One of the things they did for the Tesla, I want to say it's the Tesla X, whichever is the SUV. It has, those gull wing doors that come up. Elon, when the engineers were designing this, he did not want that little sensor with that little round nub on the outside poking through the door. He wanted a smooth door. So what he tasked them with was to create a sound that would actually penetrate through the door, the sheet metal of the door, and then come back to be read. The crazy thing is they have to ramp the volume effectively, or the intensity up of that. Normally that maybe the volume on that thing is only about a 3 on like your car bumper, right? To tell you that something's back there. On those doors, it was like up to 11. They cranked the volume effectively up to 11. So you're shooting this ultrasound, sound through, and just screaming to see if there's anything on the other side of that door, to make sure it doesn't hit anything over there. So it's like one of these crazy
All because
engineering
he
marvels.
didn't, all because he
All
didn't want
because
to have a little
didn't want
nubbin.
to have the thing on the outside because
He
he
didn't
wanted
want
to
a
look
nubbin
pretty.
on the outside.
And I sort of
Well, they do
respect
look pretty, so.
I was going to say, I respect that. I do respect that because he said, hey, how do we solve this problem?
He has solved a lot of those kind of things. I think
He
he's
has.
incredible.
Yeah.
He employs incredible people
Yep.
too.
So let's talk about wavelengths and what they
Okay.
do. Shorter wavelengths have more energy, higher frequencies, do not penetrate as deep, and do not generate heat. So that's what short wavelengths do. Longer wavelengths have less energy, have lower frequencies, but they penetrate deeper, which is, a longer wavelength would be something in the 20 hertz or the 18 hertz that might penetrate into the eye and increase molecular motion and thus generate heat. So
okay,
you might
back up a little bit.
Yes.
It says microwaves heat up anything with moisture in it, water, like food and people. So if I put like a piece of paper in there, has no water, it doesn't heat it up.
Correct.
Microwave penetrates to the interior of food and people. So don't go inside your microwave. Yep. But cellular phones use radiation in the microwave spectrum. Isn't that interesting?
Yep. Now, and I don't know if there's any validity to some of those early cell phone videos. This is pre-TikTok for people who watch that stuff. Did they put 4 cell phones on around a kernel or a couple kernels of popcorn, and then they run it?
Everybody gets the phones call each other,
and then the popcorn would pop. Now,
I think that was
well, I think there was a microwave underneath the phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you have to understand that there's different intensities. So you have a different power from a microwave than you do from a cell phone, and you have a much stronger power comparatively. So you have even more energy from that. As an aside, great use for your microwave. Unplug it, put it in your basement, put any electronic devices that you want to protect from any sort of EM pulse, electromagnetic pulse, which could be a solar flare.
Yeah, it's a Faraday cage.
Yeah, it's effectively a Faraday cage. So there's some benefits to it. But we've got so much stuff around us that we have too much stuff around us, and we don't know when. Do any one of these pieces cause a problem? Probably not. Do we now have a level of pollution that we can't see and we're not feeling very well? Yeah. Probably. And
I think you're probably right. I mean, for some people, maybe it's like, I'm just tired all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your body's constantly having to fight some of this stuff.
Exactly. And the question becomes, at what point in time do we start saying, all right, we've done too much and we need to start getting back? What point in time do we, how many people go off for a vacation camping in the woods? Yep. They ditch their cell, they're away from their Wi-Fi, and they come back fully recharged. That is really the roots of where we've been for most of our civilization. And all of a sudden, in the past, certainly 50 years, we have had this significant increase in what these folks are calling electrosmog. So it's really it's fascinating to think about. This one was interesting. This vitamin D receptor. Mm-hmm. It's associated, if you don't have enough vitamin D, obviously you have problems with inflammatory issues and autoimmune disease, but this receptor exhibits a susceptibility to electrosmog. So you have things that in your body that don't like a bunch of electronic gobbledygook, for lack of a better way to define it. And too much of it constantly, especially if you already have low vitamin D, is just a compounding problem with your overall health. So yeah, exactly.
Vitamin D is so important. Everybody, it's wintertime. Talk to your doctor about getting on vitamin D.
Yeah, and we've talked about this in the past. In fact, the only reason I haven't uploaded episode 26 at this point in time, I'm going to do it a little bit later today, is to make sure that I'm talking about vitamin D and saying, hey, talk to your doctor about vitamin D. You need to take more. There's, the upper limit is questionable as what is a upper safe dose. I don't think there's I don't think we know of a overdose in the literature. And as we've said in the past, I take 30,000 a day.
No.
And that might be too much for you.
Yeah, I take 10, but
right. But you can take more. But again, you need to talk to your doctor and say, hey,
get your levels checked.
How can I start? Get your levels checked. Make sure, another article I came across recently was suggesting 60 nanograms per deciliter was a bare minimum for women not to get breast cancer. So.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And people are in the 40s and 50s and saying, oh, that's fine.
Yeah. It's not. I don't like it.
It really isn't. So any case, lots of stuff, lots of questions. I'm not going to, I've got a couple other articles that we may revisit at another time, but I think the take home message is we just have to find times to unplug. It is, we have
and if you're not using your Wi-Fi router at night, maybe unplug it, turn it off. You don't need it on all night.
Yep. Take your and
get your phone ring for your head when you're sleeping. It does not need to be on your nightstand.
No. In fact,
we leave ours in the basement.
I'm getting to the point where I think I'm going to I'm going to get a Faraday cage to throw my cell phone in at night so that it's away from me. And I think that's, I think it's a big problem. Interesting aside, folks, I had hair until I got my first Apple 3G phone.
Oh.
I like Apple phones.
I love Apple. I love Apple products.
I look good bald.
You do look good bald, so that's nice.
I miss my hair, but it is a curious question in my mind. Did my hair start falling out? No, there was a car accident. There were complications. There were other things, but the timing is so close that I don't know. So
yeah, I mean, it could be because the autoimmunity, we were just talking about it. So
I got some. Oh
no, what are we gonna look at?
See that little spot right there?
I do see that spot.
That's new.
Is it like
it's coming back? No, that's a good spot. That's like pigment starting back up.
Okay, we like pigment. We like hair. We like all of the things.
I would like hair again.
I would share some of mine with you if I got a lot.
But thank you.
Well, I think that wraps it up, sir.
That's a good, it's a different topic for what we like talking about, but sometimes, these fun off the wall things, I
wonder if there's any chiropractors in that West Virginia town. I'm going to look that up, because if there is, I mean, like that might be a really fun person to talk to. And if not, hey, maybe we need to get a chiropractor out there.
Yep. That wouldn't be a bad place. And, just to compare notes and see what's going on in that area. Anyways, folks, Dr. Bagley, where are they going to find you?
You can find me in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm on the west side, and you can find me at precisionchiropracticstl.com.
And I am in Springfield, Illinois at KeystoneChiroSPI.com. Feel free to subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. That's how people find this. Word of mouth is the way that people get more information about all these podcasts. They're not going to find it on Google. The algorithms are already changing, and they do not like alternative ideas. Isn't that horrible? To what the mainstream is talking. We're not saying that we have the end-all be-all answers. We're just presenting the facts as we understand them, and you be the judge. So make sure you share with your friends, your family, anyone who might not realize that getting their head on straight is going to help them out. Until next week, folks.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good evening.
That's all for today's episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's show with Drs. Bagley and Schurger, remember, don't give up and just live with the pain. Come back next week and get more answers and solutions. Visit our websites at KeystoneChiroSPI.com and PrecisionChiropracticSTL.com for more info, and catch all the episodes of The Blonde and the Bald.